Okay, let's look at question number 7. So in here it says the point with coordinate 4 minus 104 lies on the curve C with equation y is equals to f of x. Given that f prime of x is this, f prime of x meaning we differentiate f of x one time and then we get f prime of x. Show that C passes through the origin. In order to check whether C passes through the origin or not, we have to find the equation of C, which is f of x. So we will find f of x using this and this information. So let's first integrate this. Y is equals to f of x, which is equals to integration of f prime of x, and we are integrating in terms of x with respect to x. Integration is the opposite of differentiation. For example, we have subtraction, which is opposite of addition. We have multiplication and division. Division is opposite of multiplication and multiplication is the opposite of division. Just like that, differentiation is opposite of integration. In differentiation, the function goes here, and in integration, the function goes here. And for integration, there are two types. One is definite, the other one is indefinite. In definite, we have limits. So the function looks something like this. So we are saying integration is finding area, differentiation is finding gradient. So we are finding area from A to B in that case. So we are finding the area under the graph from x value A to x value B. So in that case, we say A to B, and then we write the function here, and then since it is respect to x, we write dx. If it is respect to t, we write dt. And indefinite, we don't write any limits here. So since there is no limit given, we are writing like this. So we are integrating 4x cubed minus 12x square minus 19x plus 12. So we apply the formula x to the power n. When we integrate x to the power n, we get x to the power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. Since this is indefinite, we have to add a c. So 4x to the power 4 divided by 4 minus 12x cubed divided by 3 minus 19x squared divided by 2 plus 12x plus c. C is a constant. So after cancellation, we have x to the power 4 minus 4x cubed minus 19x squared by 2 plus 12x plus c. So this is f of x. Now f of x goes through this point. This point lies on C. That means f of x, this function, goes through this point, or this curve goes through this point. That means this point is true for this function. That means if we provide 4, a value of x as 4 into this equation, the output f of x or y will be minus 104. So for 4 minus 104, our y, which is this, is negative 104 is equals to x to the power 4 minus 4 times x cubed minus 19 by 2 x squared plus 12 times 4 plus c. From here we have to calculate the value of c. Once we solve this, the value of c happens to be 0. That means our initial goal was show that C passes through the origin. In order to get that, we needed the equation of the curve. We found the equation of curve, which is y is equals to, which was this. Now we have the value of C. We just put the value of C there. Now going through the origin means if we origin is 0 0, that means when the value of x is 0, value of y should be 0 as well. So when x is equals to 0, y is equals to 0 minus 0 minus 0 plus 0, which is equals to 0. Therefore C goes through origin. As for the question A2, it says show that C has a maximum at the point on the curve where x is equals to 0.5. Okay, before we find the maximum, let's say this is x, this is y, and this is our curve. If we look at here, when we find dy by dx or f prime of x or y1, they are all the same, just different notation. When we find first derivative or y1 or f prime of x, we are actually calculating the equation of gradient at any given point. For example, this equation, if I put, let's say this was the graph of C, let's assume, then if this is value x is equals to 2, if we provide the value 2 here, that the value would come out as the gradient of tangent at this point. So we can, if we have to find the gradient from graph, we draw a tangent at that point and then find the gradient of that tangent. If we have the equation, we differentiate and then we find the first derivative and then we input the value of x, then we get the gradient. Now what is second derivative? If this was my equation, so differentiation is gradient, or we could say rate of change. The first one was rate of change at the value y when value of x changes. Now instead of saying value of y, we are drawing we are saying when we are calculating y2 or d square y by dx square or f double prime of x, we are saying, sorry, we are saying what is the rate of change of in dy dx, not y but dy dx when we change the value of x. So let's check the dy dx or gradient. In here we can see that this is very high, gradient is very high. Slowly the gradient is decreasing. At this point gradient is 0. So we can say that at turning point gradient is equals to 0. Same here, gradient is 0. Okay, but what is the value of rate of change of gradient? In here, as we can see, it was, let's say this is 2. In this part gradient is 2, in this part gradient is 1, and in this part gradient is 0. In that case we are seeing that gradient is slowly decreasing, and when we come here the gradient is, let's say, -1. So it is decreasing. So at the turning points, first of all, turning points dy by dx is equals to 0. The gradient is 0. and when d square y by dx square is negative, that is a maximum point. Why? We can see the gradient is slowly decreasing from positive, it's going to negative. In order to go from positive to negative, that means it is decreasing. That means rate of change is negative. So when the rate of change is negative, it is a maximum. And the opposite, when the rate of change is greater than 0, it is a minimum. So the question says show that C has a maximum point at the point on the curve where x is equals to 0.5. Okay, now in order to find whether that value, there's two things. First of all, we have to check whether it's a turning point or not, and then we have to find out whether that is a maximum or a minimum. But for us, luckily, it already says this is a turning point at x is equals to 0.5. Okay, we don't have to check that, we just have to check whether it's a maximum or minimum. So in order to check maximum or minimum, as we can see here, we have to find the second derivative. So we are calculating f double prime of x, which is equals to 12x squared minus 24x minus 19. So when x is equals to 0.5, f double prime of x is equals to, or we can say f double prime of 0.5 is equals to 12 0.5 whole squared minus 24 0.5 minus 19. So the calculated value is negative 28. That means it is less than 0. Therefore, it is a maximum. Then the curve C has another turning point at A and another turning point at B. Given that the x coordinates of A is negative, find the coordinates of A and the coordinates of B. So as we can see here, turning points, gradient is 0. Gradient is 0. Gradient meaning first derivative, dy by dx or f prime of x or y1. So it is b1 if I'm not mistaken. So f prime of x, always follow the notation that the question is using. If the question is not using any notation, you can use whatever you want. So f prime of x is equals to 0. Now what is f prime of x? X prime of 4x cubed minus 12x minus 19x plus 12 is equals to 0. So we have to solve this. In order to solve this, we have to factorize this part. Now for factorizing, we have to find one of the factors of this algebraic expression. So usually the one of the factors has a value of this number. We have to find out the factors of this number, and one of those numbers, if we plot it here, would come out as 0. So for 12 we have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and we have to take both positive and negative. So starting with x value of positive 1, we we have to check like this in case they didn't give us any clue. But they already gave us one of the clues, which is this. Okay, so if none of this work out, then you can try 0 0.5, 1.5, 0 0.25, something like that, but usually it doesn't go below 0 0.5. And luckily they have already given us the clue, one of the factor is 0 0.5. For example, if we plot x is equals to 0 0.5 here, then we get 4 times 0 0.5 whole cube minus 12 0 0.5 squared minus 19 times 0 0.5 plus 12. If I plot that into the equation, it's 19x. It comes out as 0. Now, how do we know that one of the factor is this without testing? So, for the turning points, we know that it comes out as 0. The f prime of x is 0. We already know that. So, we just have to figure that out. We have to take the clues from the equation. Oh, sorry, from the question. So, we know one of the factor is x is equals to 0 0.5. That means x is equals to 1 over 2. Then 2x is equals to 1. 2x minus 1 is equals to 0. So I don't know if you guys remember the factor theorem. Factor theorem says if f of x f of x minus a is equals to 0, then sorry, my bad, if f of a is equals to 0, then x minus a is a factor of f of x. That was the factor theorem. So we applied that here, okay, in order to get the factor, one of the factors. So 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1 equals to 0. Sorry, we had to write this one line below. 2x minus 1. We know that there's going to be 3 part because of the power 3. Minus 1 is equals to 0. So to match the first one, we have to multiply 2x with 2x squared. So we get 4x cubed. When we multiply 2x with negative 1, we get, sorry, 2x squared with negative 1, we get minus 2x squared. To complete this, we also need negative 10x squared. Now, if we add this, we get negative 12x squared. But in this line, we don't have negative 10x squared yet. To get that, we have to multiply this term with negative 5x. So 5 times 2 is 10, x times x squared. But we also have to multiply negative 5 with this term that gives us positive 5x. But we need negative 19x. That means 19 plus 5 negative 24x. If we add these two, then we get negative 19x. But in this line, we don't have negative 24x. That means we have to multiply by negative 12. So 12 times 2 is 24, then x. We also have to multiply with this term, which gives us positive 12, which also gives us positive 12. So everything matches. If we take 2x minus 1 common from everything, then we end up with 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. So 2 2 24. So we have to use middle term factor here. So 2x minus 1 we just have to split this middle term into two different terms. So we just keep these two parts. Since these two terms have different signs, this one is positive, this one is negative, that means in the middle two terms will also have different signs. Since this is negative, that means the bigger term we usually write it in the beginning, and then the smaller term we write later. The first term will have the negative sign because of this, so both of them will have x. Now 2 times 12 is 24. We have to find a pair of factors which has a difference of 5. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, this one. Negative 8x, positive 3x, which sums up to negative 5x, and if we multiply, that is negative 24x squared, 2x squared multiplied by negative 12, also the same. So 2x minus 1, in here we can take 2x common, then we end up with x minus 4. 3 common, x minus 4. 2x minus 1, x minus 4, 2x plus 3 is equals to 0. Either 2x minus 1 is equals to 0, or x minus 4 is equals to 0, or 2x plus 3 is equals to 0. We are not going to use this because we already know one of the turning point is that x is equals to 0.5. We got it from there. So that means x is equals to 4 and x is equals to negative 3 by 2. That means this is xa, this is xb. Why? Because the question says x coordinate of the a is negative. Now in here it didn't say find the x coordinate, it says find the coordinates of a. That means we have to find x coordinate and y coordinate. To find y coordinate, we need this equation right here, this one. So that means y of a is equals to negative 3 over 2 whole to the power 4 minus 4 negative 3 over 2 whole cube minus 19 over 2 negative 3 over 2 whole square plus 12 negative 3 over 2. Similarly, y of b is equals to 4 cube minus 4 times, sorry, this is 4 to the power 4, 4 cube minus 19 over 2, 4 squared minus 12 times 4. I made a slight mistake here. This will be positive. So when we calculate, we get this. That means a is negative 3 over 2 minus 333 over 16, and b is 4 minus 104. This was given in the question. I didn't notice that earlier. You can also write this like this. This is 20 point something. 20.8125, but I would suggest this one because sometimes in decimal you don't get finite values, it becomes infinite. So I would suggest this one, but if it is finite value you can always write, no worries. Now the next question is determine the nature of these turning points. So are they maximum or minimum? In order to find that, we need the f prime of x, sorry, f double prime of x. b 2. So for a, f double prime of negative 3 over 2 is equals to something, and for b, f double prime of 4 is equals to something. Let me calculate those. So this was 44, which is less than 0. If it is less than 0, if second derivative is less than 0, that means this is a maximum. So this is a maximum, and this is also less than 0, that means it is a maximum as well. If we draw the graph would look something like this. As we can see here, this is one of the minimum, that is a maximum, and this is a minimum as well. So this was a, and this was b, and this was x is equals to 0.5. This was a maximum, a and b were minimum.